You know, everyone's looking for that fountain of youth, you know, something that you can do to make you look younger. And more people are trying to find a more natural way to do it. Well, best place to come to is the Spring of Youth over here in Ocean Springs. Dr. Barmata, it's always good to see you. How are you?
Thank you.
Come to see you so often about some of the great procedures that you do. Absolutely. And so we want to talk today about something called the Nano-Fat Facelift. Mm-hmm. And this is something in which you actually use something from your own body. Tell us how this came about.
Well, first of all, the use of fat in rejuvenation of the face really goes back to the early last century.
Really?
That's right. When, in fact, some people began to dabble with taking fat from one part of the body and putting it in another, trying to restore normality, because after surgery and things like that, you know. So basically, it remained dormant for a while, and people just experimented with it until late in the last century, when a famous man called Dr. Coleman, Sidney Coleman, he actually basically put it on the map with new ways of grafting, collecting grafting, because the challenge really is to keep the fat cells alive. What happens when you try and harvest the fat to transfer it to another part of the body, it often dies. And it, just like a graft, when you put it in a new place, unless it can get a blood supply, it will die. So what happened after he put it on the map, other people began to think, well, sometimes it's a little lumpy when we put it. If we put it in the face, it's a little lumpy and so on. So then the other modality came into being over the past 5-10 years, which is the concept of nano, which is the very, very tiny thing. It came about in many different parts of medicine and indeed industry, you know, about the nanotransistors and nano, you know, all those little gadgets that are very tiny. So basically, what he came up, what many people came up with, was the nano-fat concept, which is to try and get rid of the big blobs of fat and ending up with the tiny little cells of fat which have a better chance at survival. And indeed, because fat has about 20 to 25% by head count of the cells that are there, of stem cells. That was another very, very important factor in actually this concept, because when you destroy the big blobs of fat, the big fat cells, and get rid of them, what you end up with is a higher concentration of stem cells. So really you're getting your money's worth, so to speak, by getting a very high concentration of stem cells in what you transplant, what you use to graft another part. And therefore it has a far better chance at getting into the very thin parts of the face, like the lower eyelids and so on, and giving you a very beautiful result, and it rejuvenates the skin.
Right, and it's all natural.
It's
all natural because you know, the fact that instead of using you know, these, I don't want to say unnatural fillers, but different things that you can use that some people use, this gives you a more natural style look than you know, using the stem cells. And more and more, there's more and more research going on that the stem cells are being used nowadays for more and more medical things.
Absolutely, we use stem cells here, and we do, in fact, if somebody wants, we can further enrich what we transplant by actually adding stem cells to it. But of course, that's another procedure that we combine with it. So basically, even if you just opt for the nano-fat, and then of course in between there is so-called micro-fat, but the nano-fat particularly has the very high concentrations of stem cells, which actually is really fantastic, because it definitely, all fat grafting to the face and to the décolleté, upper mid chest will in fact rejuvenate the skin. And there are lots of people around that we have done, and of course done by my colleagues elsewhere, who actually have shown amazing rejuvenation of the skin within a matter of 2 or 3 months.
Wow. Now, what parts of the body can this be used on?
Well, it can be used, I mean, specifically, it's too good to use on building breasts or other parts of the body, because they require a very large amount. So if we take, say, 2 ounces of fat, then maybe when we've processed that into the nano-fat, then we're ending up with probably one fifth of the volume of the amount. So really, out of 100 milliliters, we're ending up with about 20 or even 15 milliliters.
Wow, that's awesome.
That we can use. So really, it's highly concentrated. But now, by the head count, we're getting a very large number of stem cells.
Now, using these stem cells, you can use them. You mentioned the eyes, but you can use them in the crease of the mouth, your upper eyelids, your temples, your lips. Different things like that. It's absolutely amazing.
The best
your hands.
The best places to use them in is the face, around the eyes, the nano-fat we're talking about now, and in the creases, in the nasolabial folds, as we call them, and in the glabella, which is between the eyes, between the eyebrows, and also in the back of the hands, because many people, as they age, especially in their 50s and 60s, of course, they are middle-aged, but they do tend to lose a lot of the beautiful definition at the back of the hand. And of course, now what you get is the veins sticking out, and you get the tendons sticking out. And of course, many people don't like that as they age, because that gives their age away.
Exactly.
All right.
It makes you look older than you want to be.
So transfer of fat, generally speaking, is fantastic for all those areas of the body that you want to really rejuvenate. And in addition, if part of that fat transfer is in the form of nano-fat, then really we're getting the best of both worlds, because there are the nooks and crannies, so to speak, that if you have the smoothness of the nano-fat, which is much smoother and doesn't have any tiny little lumps in it, then you can actually fill in the crevices there.
All right, Dr. Mahmada, thank you so much. We're out of time here today.
Thank you.
If you want some more information, you can go to their website and find out some more information.